So what happens when we're having all these fears, right? When we have them and we need to report about them to others, to a coach or to a group like this, we feel like there's something wrong with us, but good Lord, with all those fears, doesn't it feel like a little bit more okay that it's scary as hell to go have sales calls, right? You're fighting quite a few things there, yeah? So what happens? We resist, we procrastinate, we self-sabotage. That's the strategy that we come up with. And I want to give you a formula for procrastination. And if you want to write something down that might be interesting just to kind of hold on to and understand, is this formula right here. Self-worth equals ability, which equals performance. So I want to go back to those caveman times, and I want to imagine that I am a hunter who eats a lot of food, I have a healthy appetite, and yet I'm failing at the hunting part of my duties. My performance is poor, my ability as a hunter is bad. That's incredibly scary when I come back to the tribe, because potentially they might tell me to stop eating. I'm not producing, I'm not pulling my weight, right? So we have this sort of background history in our bones, in our DNA, that my self-worth, my very worth here on this planet, has everything to do with my ability at different things, at different skills on this planet. And that is proven and shown by my performance, right? So what ends up happening here is that self-worth is so important to us that performance becomes really, really scary. There's a lot of pressure to perform. There's a lot of pressure to perform in front of other people and do it well. Because if I don't, maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe I'm not cool enough to be your friend. Maybe I'm not good enough to be accepted. Maybe, again, it's sort of threatening that root level death if I don't perform well. Okay? Now, we can understand why we might feel this way, but this is not where self-worth should come from. This is not where our worth should be. We should have inherent self-worth just by the fact that we're here. We should connect to a feeling that we're safe and okay just because we're here, right? Well, when this is real for us, when performance is that important, and it directly goes to our self-worth, what happens? Well, we actually use, procrastination isn't like a problem with you, it's a structure of the mind to protect your self-identity. It gives you the excuse that the ideal version of you really could have done whatever, right? So if I got a C on a test, but I procrastinated, I can tell myself internally and others, you know, I would have done much better, but I didn't start studying till the night before, right? I would be amazing at my job. My performance would be incredible if I wasn't so disorganized, right? There's some other version of me that's completely worthy and okay, but I'm going to procrastinate to give myself the excuse that I don't have to actually live into that level of myself. Because if I actually gave it my all, if I really, really tried hard and everybody knew I tried my hardest and all that, and I only got a 70, then I'd be ashamed. Then I'd be like, wow, I'm not really as good as I thought I was. So we're constantly playing this game with ourselves, and our mind kind of shuts off and we don't want to do it anymore. Why? Because we're really, really afraid that we might not be worthy. That core story of I'm not enough might really be true. So while we're believing into that and we're seeing it in all these things, internally we're building these masks where, you know, that's not really true. I'm totally worthy, dude. I'm like amazing. You have no idea. You have no idea how good in bed I am, right? Phenomenal, phenomenal. And then it gets down to it and it's like, I hope she likes it. Oh my gosh. I want to tell you a story about Fonzie Cool. I went through really difficult childhood, and lots of us have, really difficult childhoods and all that stuff. But I ended up filled with so much shame, so much. I really didn't think I was even supposed to be here. Right? I was told you shouldn't have been born. I was abused in lots of ways, and I had all this hurt, so much hurt. So what I did, and I didn't realize this till much later, but what the way I survived that was I built up a bravado. I built up a version of myself that was so amazing, almost magical, right, to combat this really underneath fear of I am completely worthless. And so I was a TV baby, latchkey kid, all that, and I watched Fonzie all the time. And I don't know if you remember Fonzie, but this dude could snap his fingers and have chicks show up. He could go beat up 4 guys. He hit the jukebox and it started playing, and this is what it looked like when he danced, right? Chicks just kind of circled around him. That's hot, right? So I became Fonzie cool. Now, it was far from healthy, but I was giving off a bravado of nothing bothers me, man. I'll do whatever. You want to go do heroin? Let's do it. I don't rattle. I'll do anything, anytime, anywhere. I'm Fonzie cool. Now, how I know that wasn't true was that if I was asked back in middle school, high school, whatever, to give a public talk, I would have not fear, but a level of panic that is like crazy. Now, why is that? Because if I came up here and my voice shook, right, or my hands shook, or something went like that, and all of a sudden you could see that I really wasn't Fonzie cool, that perception of myself, that image of I'm actually okay, that protection that procrastination does too, right, gives us that excuse of we're actually way better than this, right? But you guys might actually find out that I'm really not what I say I am. I'm actually nervous. I'm actually scared. I actually have all this other stuff underneath. So this inherent self-worth that I'm talking about, not this one, let me tell another quick story actually, it's really kind of important. In that Fonzie cool state, if I were invited to go bowling, let's say, and I'd never gone bowling before, I'd be like, sure, I'll go bowling, it'll be my first time, but you know what I would try to do? I'd try and run out and go bowl as much as I could, as much as I could, as much as I could, so that when I showed up for my first time of bowling, I was oddly good, right? Wow, he's awesome for a first timer. Look at how talented he is. And I would wear that because I wanted to be Fonzie, right? I was faking into an identity that wasn't real at all because it wasn't okay to not be amazing. I'd built this bravado and all that stuff. So I didn't have any real inherent self-worth. It was all based on what you guys thought of me. I didn't have the ability to come up on stage and give a confident talk and not really worry. You know, I care about what you think, but I can't worry about it because I got to connect to what's important for me. I have to have my self-worth be based on my perceptions, not what you guys are doing. Do you see that shift? Right? One is looking at myself through your eyes. It's very codependent and meshed. And one is being really at the center of it. And so where does inherent self-worth come from? It comes from our core story. If I feel like I'm enough, right? If I feel like I'm okay, I have enough, I am enough, I want to grow, of course, but I'm amazing as I am, then all of a sudden this inherent sense of self-worth can come in. So what does confidence look like? It looks like a guy who really doesn't care about what you think. It's the guy who can come up on stage. I used to watch people go on stage when I had that kind of panic about public speaking because then I was going to be exposed. It was like the way they were going to find out that I wasn't as cool as I was pretending to be. And you know, I used to see people get up and confidently give speeches, and I swear to God, it was like looking at a mother effing unicorn. I'm like, what is that? Like, how do they do it? I don't know. And I would get panicked just at the idea of them giving a talk, and they'd get off and they'd look all cool, and I'm like, what are you? Like, I don't get it, right? Until I started to see what self-love, what self-worth really is about. So you can have that level of confidence. You can have that confidence where you can go try and make mistakes. Think about a kid who's raised more healthily than many of us, who actually has some of these first fears, builds core stories like I'm not enough, but then through example of other things, isn't held and criticized for getting the B, but is loved repeatedly for what they are, right? They start to form a core story of like, it's okay if I go mess up at bowling. It's okay if I go mess up giving a talk. That doesn't affect who I am. That's just something I'm doing. There's not this massively malaligned connection to your self-worth in your performance. Your performance is just something you did on a Tuesday. You don't have to be perfect, right? So with you guys and your software programs and all the stuff that you're trying to put together, how much of it, look deeply, is in some of this stuff? And it's not that easy to see all the time. But I assure you that a lot of that resistance is hanging out in this self-worth category, okay?